always first at the finish line. At the finish line.
This is like nothing. These people have done so much more, and like the facts of it, they're very secretive. They're very good at hiding things, extremely good. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Is like a lot of this stuff is coming out for the first time. Like some of these facts and books were only written in the last like 10 years, which is really not that much time. Some of them aren't even 10 years old. Some of them, like, that's like the max is like 8 years old. Some of them are more like 5 or whatever. But a lot of this stuff is just now coming out. So, like, if anybody's listening to this and you're inspired or you want to know more and you want to know the truth, you have to go out and look. We need more people looking. And that's exactly what Annie Jacobsen said in her book, is that we need more people to go out and look, because there is so much information out there about this stuff. We do not have the full story. We don't even have, like, I would barely even call it a glimpse of what we have seen. We've seen like a spark, you know, and here we have German V-2 rocket ordnance department, White Sands Proving Grounds, New Mexico. I think that's Werner von Braun. But so I'll just go on to the synopsis of Operation Paperclip. But even, like I said, even she says that we're just scratching the surface and that we need a lot of people looking at this stuff. The quantity of information, like the amount, if I remember correctly, the last Freedom of Information Act that tried to go through for Operation Paperclip was like millions of articles. Millions. That's how many documents that they have classified on Operation Paperclip that the citizens cannot see. What the hell are you guys working on? And a lot of this stuff that they're working on comes to what these alternative energy stuff today, because all these Nazis went into the Department of Energy. Well, not all of them, but like that's where a lot of this stuff, the Manhattan Project and all of these stuff afterwards, was all with the Department of Energy. And that is one of the biggest keeper of the secrets is the Department of Energy. And yeah, it all comes a lot on them. So we'll go with Operation Paperclip. The secret intelligence program that brought Nazi scientists to America is a 2014 book by journalist Annie Jacobsen. The book provides a detailed and often unsettling account of the U.S. government's covert program to recruit and relocate German scientists, engineers, and technicians, many of whom were former Nazis or had ties to the Nazi regime, to the United States after World War II. The program, known as Operation Paperclip, aimed to harness German scientific expertise to advance American military, aerospace, and technological capabilities during the Cold War. Jacobsen's work exposes the moral compromises, ethical dilemmas, and geopolitical calculations that underpin this controversial initiative. Key themes and synopsis. Origins of Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip was launched in the aftermath of World War II as a part of the U.S. effort to gain technological and military edge over the Soviet Union during the emerging Cold War. The program was named after paperclips used to attach the scientists' new personnel files to their U.S. government records, effectively whitewashing their Nazi past. So the name of the program was named after their whitewashing. The cleaning, the laundering of their history, and all of the blood, all of the thousands of people that they murdered, just cleaned away and forgotten, erased into history. Recruitment of Nazi scientists. Jacobsen detailed how the U.S. government, particularly the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, JIOA, identified and recruited over 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians. Many of these individuals had been involved in Nazi war efforts, including the development of the V-2 rocket under Werner von Braun, chemical weapons, and other technologies. Ethical and moral dilemmas. The book highlights ethical compromises made by U.S. officials who often overlooked or downplayed the scientists' involvement in war crimes, human experimentation, and the use of slave labor from concentration camps. Jacobsen explores the tension between the desire to acquire valuable scientific knowledge, and the moral imperative to hold individuals accountable for their actions under the Nazi regime. Key figures and contributions. The book profiles prominent Operation Paperclip recruits such as Werner von Braun, who became a leading figure in the U.S. space program, such as Hubertus Strughold, pioneer. Jacobson examines the significant contributions these scientists made to American military space programs, the development of ballistic missiles, Apollo moon landing program, and advancement in aviation and medicine. Cold War geopolitics. Operation Paperclip was driven by the fear that the Soviet Union would recruit these scientists first, giving them a technological edge to the Cold War. Here's an interesting thing on that. The Soviet Union was actually making their Nazis scientists renounce their Nazism and actually not be a Nazi. Otherwise, they were killed. Whereas in America, we didn't care. We just put them straight into our highest levels of government, still as a Nazi. They didn't change one bit, and that's how they took over. Jacobson discusses the broader geopolitical context, including the U.S.-Soviet rivalry and the race to acquire German scientific expertise. Human experimentation and war crimes. The book delves into the dark history of some paperclip scientists, particularly those in unethical experimentation such as testing chemicals and conducting medical experiments on concentration camp prisoners. Jacobson raises questions about the extent to which the U.S. government was complicit in covering up these crimes to secure the scientists' cooperation. Legacy and impact. Jacobson reflects on the long-term consequences of Operation Paperclip, both in terms of its contributions to American scientific and military achievements and its moral and ethical costs. The book also examines how the program shaped public perception of science, government secrecy, and the role of former Nazis in post-war America. I'll also say that while Annie Jacobson is a badass and she's an investigative journalist and she's talked about all this stuff, and I really enjoyed the book, she did say that she was friends with a bunch of CIA people, so she is kind of pro-CIA, relatively. Basically every book about Operation Paperclip just kisses the CIA's butt regarding how it was necessary to do what they did. They will justify anything, and a lot of these books, the first chapter is always a justification, almost without question. I'm not sure if I found a book that has not started off with the justification, which I get, and at some degree, it's right, but it's overblown. So I just wanted to say that Annie Jacobson, while she's really, really good, and she is basically kind of like a CIA whistleblower type of thing, she is relatively sympathetic towards the CIA and their plight. So I'll say that. So conclusion, Operation Paperclip is meticulously researched and thought-provoking exploration of one of the most controversial episodes in U.S. history. Annie Jacobson sheds light on the complex interplay between science, morality, geopolitics, revealing how the pursuit of technological advancement often came at the expense of justice and ethical principles. The book serves as both a historical account and a cautionary tale, challenging readers to grapple with difficult questions raised by the U.S. government's decision to recruit and rehabilitate former Nazis. It is a compelling and often disturbing narrative that underscores the enduring tension between national security and moral accountability, which kind of echoes back to what we were talking about with ufology also. So here we're going to combine almost everything that we're talking about. We're starting to come to the point where all of these seemingly really tangential, strange points all are going to come together. They're all going to come together to one central point, two nexus points, and that is supremacy and the U.S. torture program. I would say, really. So we'll get into that some more. So key themes and synopsis. The origins of Area... Oh, sorry, I skipped some. Please give a synopsis of Area 51 by Annie Jacobsen. Area 51 is an uncensored history of America's top secret military base. It is a 2011 book by journalist Annie Jacobsen. The book provides a comprehensive and investigative look into the history, operations, and mysteries surrounding Area 51, the highly classified U.S. military facility located in the Nevada desert. Jacobsen's work is based on interviews with former Area 51 employees, pilots, engineers, and scientists, as well as declassified documents. It explores the base's role in developing cutting-edge military technology and its connection to Cold War espionage, while also addressing the enduring myths and conspiracy theories about extraterrestrial activity. The key themes and synopsis. Origins of Area 51. Area 51 was established in the 1950s as a testing site for top-secret military projects, particularly those related to aviation and reconnaissance. The base's remote location and extreme secrecy made it an ideal place for developing and testing advanced aircraft such as the U-2 spy plane and SR-71 Blackbird. Cold War espionage and technological innovation. Jacobsen details how Area 51 played a crucial role in the Cold War arms race, serving as a hub for developing stealth technology, surveilling aircraft, and other cutting-edge military innovations. The book highlights the contributions of engineers, pilots, and scientists who worked at the base, often under conditions of extreme secrecy and pressure. The U-2 Oxcart programs, which in this book it says that the Nazis, so we took all these Nazis, we brought them to Area 51, the Nazis trained the U-2 program. I had no idea that. I had no idea of that the Nazis trained our U-2 pilots, and they would basically torture them and do all this dumb stuff. It didn't seem to have anything to do with flying. I don't even want to describe what they were doing to these people. Absolutely terrible things. And then afterwards, they were just supposed to go and spend time with their family, as if they're not been traumatized from being tortured. And they volunteered to do it because they wanted to be heroes. And they were told that they were going to be heroes. Well, the freaking CIA people got the bright idea of painting the SR-71 or the U-2, I can't remember which one it was. And the engineer said, absolutely not. If you do that, the plane is going to crash and it's going to add too much weight and it will crash the plane. And they said, we don't care. Just paint it. And so they paint it, and sure enough, the plane crashes, and the pilots they have are the most badass people they can find. They're absolute geniuses, and they're extremely physically fit, and they're jet pilots. They're amazing pilots. And this guy that they killed on accident was a genius that was building electric pianos in the 30s or some shit like that. And they killed him because they painted a plane when the engineer told them not to. They don't care about human life. They don't care about their own CIA people. That's what this CIA, that's what I learned in the Area 51 book, is how little the CIA cares about their own agents. It is shocking. Jacobsen also covers the Oxcart program, which led to the creation of SR-71 Blackbird, supersonic reconnaissance craft, nuclear testing, environmental impact. Book discusses environmental consequences of nuclear testing conducted near Area 51, including impact on workers and nearby communities. Jacobsen raises concerns about the health risks faced by those exposed to radiation and toxic chemicals during testing. Here's where it gets juicy. Roswell incident and extraterrestrial myths. One of the most controversial aspects of the book is Jacobsen's exploration of the Roswell incident, a 1947 event often associated with UFOs and extraterrestrial life. I've talked about this in the episode with Kenneth Arnold and the Nazis and Missing People episode. In that Isn't it strange that Kenneth Arnold as well as Roswell happened 1947, only a couple months, really, like a year or like a year and a half, like two, after World War II had ended, that all of this strange stuff is happening? Does that mean, like, what does that mean? You know, people have speculated on that a long time. I personally think that it has more to do with the Nazis than most people think, and that is what Kenneth Arnold might have seen with some sort of craft that maybe the American government or the Nazi government or both, because they basically combined, as we're reading, was using. And again, it was talking about how the Nazis formed a state within a state. That's like a government within a government, like a secret society within the government. And that's what they formed. And that's what JFK, or that's what Eisenhower warned about. That's what Truman warned about. That's what JFK warned about. And it seems like that's what happened, was this government within a government was made of all these Nazis, that we have an illusion of having like an American government, but actually it seems that there's these authoritarians actually in power. And you can, that's not a theory, that's from the evidence here. That's like, we have the evidence and the documents, shitloads of it, all proving it, and the banks and all of that. It's not just like a wild conspiracy theory. This is like extremely documented across health, like medical, industrial, banking, social, education, space, maybe even more. So, very fascinating. Jacobson presents a theory that the Roswell incident was not related to aliens, but rather to a secret Soviet experiment involving human subjects and an advanced aircraft technology. This theory has been widely debated and criticized. I'm going to circle back to that at the end of this Area 51 part. Secrecy and government accountability. Jacobson examines the culture of secrecy surrounding Area 51 and its implications for government transparency and accountability. The book raises questions about ethical and legal boundaries of classified military programs and the extent to which the public has a right to know about government activities. Interviews and first-hand accounts. A key strength of the book is its reliance on first-hand accounts of individuals who worked at Area 51, providing unique insights into the base's operation and experience of those involved. These interviews reveal the challenges and risks faced by workers, as well as the intense pressure to maintain secrecy. Conclusion. Area 51, an uncensored history of America's top-secret military base, is a meticulously researched and engaging exploration of one of the most secretive places in the world. Annie Jacobson shed light on the base's role in shaping modern military technology and its impact on Cold War espionage, while also addressing the myths and conspiracy theories that have made Area 51 a cultural icon. While some of Jacobson's claims, particularly regarding Roswell's incident, have sparked controversy and debate, the book remains a valuable contribution to the understanding of Area 51's history and significance in the broader context of U.S. military and intelligence operations. It serves as both a historical account and critique of the secrecy and ethical dilemmas inherent in the classified government programs. And I'll also say that Area 51 and Israel have a history tied together. Israel would go out and steal equipment and send it back to Area 51 to be tested on. So that's another reason, like, other than the colonial racist power structures that I had talked about earlier, there's also a historical precedent of Israel stealing equipment, like I said, and then handing it over to America to be tested on. So, spoiler alert on this. If you haven't read the book and you want to read the book, spoiler, you might want to skip past this until we go to the next one. But CIA agent last words were that the CIA, not the Soviets, were the ones doing the hybrid testing on disabled children biologically and physically / surgically engineering the children to operate the craft. And we've had a lot of, I know that sounds really fucking crazy, but we've had a lot of documentaries and evidence and documents and all sorts of scientists and just evidence, like I said, come out and show that there might be a lot more truth to that, unfortunately, than what most people would be comfortable with. This is where it starts to get, pretty disturbing. But, yeah, the CIA guy who was on his deathbed, had basically told her this whole time that, humans were inside of the craft and that it wasn't aliens. And he kept on saying the Soviets, and then at the very end he was like, okay, actually it was us. And it's really, really bad. And it's worse than anything that I can actually tell you, is what basically he said. So, with all these documentaries coming out of psychic and psionic type of stuff in the brain, and finally people are starting to look into that sort of stuff, I mean, publicly, right? Because, we're going to talk about here in a second, the Nazis and the government and the CIA have been looking at that stuff for a long, long time. And kings and queens and the aristocrats were into cults and the esoteric, and they've been into that sort of stuff even before that. So for literally thousands of years, possibly this sort of stuff has been experimented with, at least to some degree. Even shamanism and different religions in the world and stuff may have been tapping into this psychic component that we just don't fully understand currently in this time. So the use of abuse in the methodology of developing child psionic abilities, which manufactures them into a tool, is something that's very common. Psychological and physical torture are common developmental tactics for certain programs. This was developed by the U.S. torture program using Operation Paperclip, Operation Artichoke, some others that I can't remember, integrating Japanese and Nazi scientists into these American programs in the CIA, United States Air Force, Army, FBI, as well as parts of the Department of Defense and State Department. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the CIA has been developing psychic child soldiers that they put in crafts that are specifically designed for that person, both physically for them, because apparently they were disabled in some degree. I'm not really sure what that means, but we have stuff coming out like the telepathy tapes today that say that nonverbal autistic people, some of them are extremely telepathic, and that they can prove it scientifically, and that they're having all these breakthroughs and working through that. Well, that's basically who this guy is saying is piloting these crafts, are these nonverbal psychic children from the U.S. torture program, which is just so incomprehensibly heinous and terrible to even think of. But that's what the documents seem to be pointing towards, and it's really not cool. And it just goes to ask yourself again of our people, our pilots, and our sensors are seeing so many different types of craft up there that it does make you wonder if some of them couldn't be ours. And if we had allegedly stuff like this back then my lord. But it's a kind of hinting as well towards the CIA hybridization program, which I had talked about a couple episodes back, which a lot more evidence is coming out of about that is unfortunately taking place. And so you combine U.S. torture program with telepathy tapes with any Jacobson's Area 51, and then these documents on the human brain and intuition and everything Gary Nolan's doing. It all comes together. It all comes together into a nexus point. And it's not a pretty situation. But I don't think that all of the stuff in the air is like whatever I don't even know what you would call this. I'm sure they have a term for it. I don't know. What I would just call this monstrous. It's unspeakably evil if this is truly going on. And it does seem to be going on. The only question is to what extent and to how far will it go? How long has it been going on? How far will it go into the future? How far are they willing to go? Like this is the sentence that I highlighted earlier of raises questions to the extent to which the U.S. and its allies are willing to compromise their morals in the pursuit of technological and military superiority. After everything I've just read, and we're just getting started, really, we haven't even gotten into the worst stuff yet, seems like they might actually be willing to do something like this. So we'll move on. This is, like, again, relatively speculative, but there's so much evidence that, like, the quantity of evidence shows, you know, where I think we should put our speculation. Okay, we're going to move on for time's sake again. I have a picture here of Sidney Gottlieb and his torture program. So I had asked the AI. All these books, by the way, I highly encourage you to buy these books and read them so that you will be on point for season 2 of Inspired Earth, and that you will be knowledgeable of this sort of stuff. I'll say that both of Annie Jacobson's books that we just covered, Area 51 and Operation Paperclip, are a relatively easy reading compared to the next two that we're going to go over. So, you know, I had like talked about people with like warnings and stuff like that, and like I had to take like a month break after reading this next book before I moved on to our last book, what will be our 4th book. So please give me a synopsis of Stephen Kinzer's Poisoner-in-Chief. That's what I had asked. Poisoner-in-Chief, Sidney Gottlieb and the CIA Search for Mind Control is a 2019 book by journalist and author Stephen Kinzer. The book delves into the life of Sidney Gottlieb, a central figure in the CIA's clandestine MK-Ultra program, which sought to develop methods of mind control and chemical interrogation during the Cold War. Kinzer's work exposes the disturbing and often unethical experiments conducted under Gottlieb's leadership, as well as the broader implications of the CIA's pursuit of psychological and chemical warfare. Key themes and synopsis. Sidney Gottlieb, the mastermind of MK-Ultra. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist and CIA operative, is portrayed as the driving force behind MK-Ultra, a top-secret program launched in the 1950s. And I'll say that he kind of was a driving force, but at the end of the book, it also says that he was just like a scapegoat. You know, he was like the patsy, like the fall guy. After all of this stuff, they just needed one guy to pin it on, you know, like one guy to be the bad guy.